This is Chapter 8. At this level, leadership stops being something you're given and becomes something you either earn or lose every single day. Not through speeches, not through policies, through how you behave when pressure is high and the outcome is uncertain. Most advisors assume technicians resist the front counter because of personality differences, communication style, or ego. That explanation is comfortable. It's also wrong. Resistance doesn't come from attitude. It comes from exposure. Technicians don't resist advisors who protect them. They resist advisors who leave them exposed. At Tier 3 and beyond, technicians are not watching what you say when things go smoothly. They are watching what you do when something is wrong, unclear, delayed, or uncomfortable. That is where respect is either built or destroyed quietly. Every shop has the same moment that reveals this. A customer returns unhappy. The concern isn't resolved. The shop is already busy. Everyone feels the pressure. And the advisor has a choice, one that feels small but carries long consequences. They can say, "I'll talk to the tech," or they can say something else. That first sentence sounds harmless. It sounds responsible. It sounds like teamwork. But to the technician, it sounds like a warning shot. It signals that blame may be incoming, that their work may be questioned publicly, that the advisor is creating distance instead of ownership. That's how resentment begins. Resentment is not explosive. It's quiet. It shows up as slower help, shorter answers, less urgency to save you when the day is burning down, less effort to write clean notes, less willingness to double-check something one more time. And it compounds. At the same time, the customer sees the fracture immediately. Even if they don't understand the technical details, they understand disunity. They hear separation. They feel uncertainty. And uncertainty erodes trust faster than a missed ETA ever will. This is why technician leadership is not optional at advanced levels. You cannot run a stable operation if the base sees the front counter as a liability instead of an ally. At this tier, failure isn't a comeback. Failure is culture damage. Culture damage doesn't announce itself. It shows up later as comebacks that should have been prevented, notes that should have been clearer, and technicians who stop going the extra mile because experience has taught them it's not safe to do so. The hard truth is this: technicians don't follow job titles. They follow behavior. They follow consistency. They follow people who make their work easier instead of harder, and safer instead of riskier. And safety here doesn't mean comfort. It means dignity. It means not being blamed publicly. It means not being rushed into guesses. It means not having promises made on their behalf without consent. It means not having their work released without verification just so someone else can clear a counter faster. At Tier 3 and beyond, your role shifts. You are no longer just translating information between the customer and the bay. You are owning the outcome of the repair, not emotionally, operationally. Owning the outcome means the customer hears one voice, not two. Owning the outcome means problems are handled as we, not you. Owning the outcome means you do not protect your ego by sacrificing someone else's credibility. This doesn't require authority. In fact, authority often makes it worse. This kind of leadership only works when it's chosen, not enforced. Technicians test this early. They test whether you will rush them under pressure. They test whether you will promise timelines based on hope. They test whether you will verify work before calling it complete. They test whether you will correct privately or perform publicly. Those tests are not disrespect. They are data collection. When you pass them consistently, the testing stops. At that point, something important changes in the shop. The bay stops resisting the front counter. Notes get cleaner. Heads-ups come earlier. Problems get flagged before they become failures. The technician starts treating your word as something solid because experience has taught them it is. That's respect. Not friendliness, not jokes, not proximity. Respect built from protection. This chapter exists because most advisors try to manage technicians through personality, tone, or leverage. Advanced advisors manage technicians through outcome ownership. They protect time. They protect dignity. They protect the standard, even when it costs them convenience. And when you do that long enough, consistently enough, technicians stop asking whether you have authority. They start acting like you do. That is what it means to lead technicians without a title. And that is the standard this chapter is here to set. Technicians don't follow titles, they follow protection. At the elite level, the statement isn't opinion, it's observable behavior. In every shop, technicians decide who they trust long before they decide who they respect. And they make that decision based on one question they never ask out loud: is this person safe to work with when things go wrong? Titles don't answer that question. Policies don't answer it. Meetings don't answer it. Behavior does. Technicians live in exposure. Their work is physical, permanent, and measurable. A bolt torqued incorrectly shows up later. A diagnosis that misses something shows up later. A rushed decision shows up later. When something fails, the bay is where fingers point first, whether that's fair or not. Because of that exposure, technicians are constantly evaluating whether the front counter is a shield or a spotlight. When advisors use blame language, even casually, technicians hear danger. When advisors promise timelines without checking workload, technicians hear risk. When advisors release vehicles without verification, technicians hear betrayal. None of that requires yelling or confrontation. It only requires inconsistency. This is why resentment builds quietly in shops that otherwise look fine. No one explodes. No one storms out. Instead, technicians withdraw cooperation. They stop volunteering information. They stop double-checking things just in case. They stop saving the day when the advisor is buried, because experience has taught them that extra effort increases exposure, not appreciation. Protection reverses that pattern. Protection doesn't mean excusing mistakes. It doesn't mean lowering standards. It means owning the outcome so the technician is not left alone with the consequences of decisions they didn't make. At the elite level, technicians follow advisors who do three things consistently. First, they protect dignity. Problems are handled privately. Corrections happen away from customers. Praise happens publicly when it's earned. This signals fairness. Fairness is the foundation of trust. Second, they protect time. Advisors who collapse decision windows, control promises, and keep bays moving make the technician's day predictable. Predictability reduces stress. Reduced stress increases quality. Third, they protect the standard. Advisors who verify work before release, who refuse to call something fixed without confidence, and who push back on rushed guesses make it safe for technicians to do their job correctly instead of quickly. This is why technicians follow people who protect them, not people who outrank them. Protection creates alignment. Alignment creates collaboration. Collaboration creates speed without pressure. When technicians believe you will stand with them instead of stepping aside, they give you something no title can force: effort under pressure. They flag issues early. They communicate more clearly. They help you solve problems before they become comebacks. That behavior is not bought. It is earned. At the elite level, leadership is not something you announce. It's something the Bay decides to give you based on how consistently you protect them when the outcome is uncertain. That is the core truth this chapter is built on. So here's the question that determines whether technicians see you as an ally or as a liability. When pressure hits, do you protect the Bay or protect yourself? This question matters because pressure is where real leadership shows up. Anyone can sound collaborative when everything is going well. But when a comeback walks in, when a job isn't resolved, when the shop is overloaded and everyone wants an answer right now, instinct takes over. The instinct most advisors feel is distance yourself, delay the moment, shift responsibility downstream. I'll talk to the tech. That's not what they told me. Let me see what he did. Those phrases feel neutral in the moment. To technicians, they feel like exposure. They signal that if this turns uncomfortable, you're willing to step aside instead of stepping in. Technicians remember that. And they adjust. They become more guarded. They stop offering context. They give you only what's required. They stop taking initiative because initiative increases risk. Over time, the Bay stops collaborating and starts complying, and compliance is slow, brittle, and resentful. Protection looks different. Protection sounds like ownership. I'm taking responsibility for the outcome. We're not releasing this until we're confident. Let me verify it before I tell the customer it's fixed. Those sentences don't deny reality. They control it. At the elite level, advisors do not need to be defensive because they are not isolated. They operate as part of a unit. The customer hears one voice. The Bay feels shielded. The problem becomes shared instead of personal. This doesn't mean technicians are never held accountable. It means accountability happens in the right order. Facts first. Verification second. Correction privately. Communication cleanly. Outcome owned publicly. That order is what keeps trust intact. So ask yourself honestly, when something goes wrong, Where does your first instinct point? Toward resolution or toward distance? Because technicians can feel the difference immediately. If your instinct is to protect the bay, technicians will protect you when the day is burning down. If your instinct is to protect yourself, technicians will let you feel alone when you need them most. That's not punishment. It's self-defense. Elite leadership isn't louder. It isn't friendlier. It isn't about authority. It's about being the person who consistently steps into the uncomfortable space so others don't have to. That's why technicians follow protection. And that's why this question matters more than any title you'll ever hold. At the elite level, leading technicians becomes a discipline of outcome ownership under pressure. This is not soft leadership. It is precise, enforceable behavior that turns the front counter from a risk factor into a stabilizing force for the bay. The technician trust doctrine attempt exists to remove ambiguity about what leadership looks like when things are unclear, delayed, or uncomfortable. The first execution discipline is owning the outcome publicly and correcting privately. Technicians do not fear accountability. They fear exposure. Public blame creates defensive behavior even when a mistake exists. Defensive behavior slows diagnostics, weakens notes, and increases the chance of repeat failures. Elite advisors never correct technicians in front of customers, never speculate about what the technician did, and never narrate uncertainty out loud. Instead, the advisor takes ownership immediately. Ownership sounds calm. Ownership sounds unified. Ownership sounds boring, and that's why it works. I'm going to take ownership of this and make sure it's right. That sentence tells the customer the shop is one unit. It tells the technician they are not alone. It buys time to verify facts instead of reacting to feelings. Ownership doesn't deny reality. It controls the narrative until reality is confirmed. The second execution discipline is verification before release. Verification is not mistrust. It is professionalism. Elite advisors do not announce completion based on screen status alone. They verify the original concern whenever possible. They review notes with intent. They ask the one question that protects everyone. Are we confident the original concern is gone? If the answer is anything other than yes, the job is not complete. Calling it complete to clear a counter faster is a short-term convenience that creates long-term damage. Verification reduces comebacks not by catching every issue, but by preventing premature closure. Technicians trust advisors who verify because verification protects their reputation. It ensures the shop's promise matches the vehicle's reality. The third execution discipline is controlling promises ruthlessly. Promises are the fastest way to destroy technician trust when made casually. Promising timelines without checking workload, parts reality, and test requirements puts the technician in an impossible position. When the promise fails, the technician absorbs the frustration even if they had no control over the commitment. Elite advisors never promise on behalf of the bay without consent. Instead, they involve the technician in the message. What do you want me to tell the customer? That question does not abdicate leadership. It aligns it. It gives the technician agency over risk while keeping the advisor responsible for communication. It removes pressure and replaces it with collaboration. The fourth execution discipline is protecting technician time through clean decision leadership. Technicians lose trust in advisors who let approvals drift. Drifting approvals turn bays into waiting rooms. Waiting rooms turn into frustration. Frustration leads to rushed work later, which increases mistakes and comebacks. Elite advisors collapse decision windows ethically. They present proof clearly. They offer two responsible paths. If the customer cannot decide, the advisor creates a committed next step instead of leaving the bay hostage. This behavior signals respect for the technician's time and workflow. Respect earns cooperation. The fifth execution discipline is handling conflict as a unit. When something goes wrong, elite advisors do not dramatize it. They gather facts. They duplicate concerns when possible. They speak privately with the technician. They agree on the correction. They communicate externally with ownership language. No theater, no blame, no ego. This approach does not excuse errors. It prevents them from multiplying. Technicians respond to this consistency by increasing transparency. Notes get cleaner. Heads-ups arrive earlier. Edge cases are flagged instead of hidden. Over time, the doctrine scales. Other advisors begin to mirror the behavior. We replaces they. Verification becomes normal. Blame language disappears. The base stops bracing when the counter walks in. This is how leadership spreads without a title. Elite leadership does not demand respect. It creates conditions where respect is the logical response. When technicians feel protected, they collaborate. When they collaborate, quality rises. When quality rises, comebacks fall. That is not culture talk. That is operational reality. This chapter defines elite technician leadership as protection, ownership, and verification, applied consistently under pressure. First, you own the outcome publicly. Customers hear one voice. Problems are handled as we, not you. Blame language disappears because it solves nothing and poisons trust. Second, you verify before release. Screen status does not equal resolution. Confidence must be earned before completion is announced. Verification protects the technician's reputation and the shop's promise at the same time. Third, you control promises. You never commit the bay based on hope. You involve technicians in messaging so timelines are defendable and risk is shared instead of dumped. Fourth, you protect technician time. You collapse decision windows ethically, stage work intentionally, and refuse to let bays sit hostage to indecision. Time protection is respect in action. Fifth, you correct privately and praise publicly. This preserves dignity, builds fairness, and creates a bay that chooses to work with you instead of against you. Elite advisors do not rely on authority. They rely on consistency. Over time, technicians stop testing. Collaboration replaces resistance. Communication improves without being demanded. The outcome is measurable. Cleaner notes, earlier warnings, fewer comebacks, faster recovery on bad days. And most importantly, a bay that trusts the front counter when pressure is high. The challenge is enforceable. For the next week, adopt 2 rules. Verify the original concern before release every time. Use ownership language in every customer-facing problem. Add 1 behavior. Publicly praise 1 technician's specific action each day. Watch what changes. Because technicians don't follow titles. They follow protection.